What is up, guys? This is Jared Spalding here, and I'm sorry for the camera quality, but for some reason my camera decided it's not going to let me use the SD card for today. It's just going to be trying, it decided not to work, so that's just really fun, having to use this camera. But anyway, let's just get right into this video here, and today I'm going to be talking about what type of silver you should invest in if you're, starting out, what should be your first silver purchase. And what you're looking at is mine. These two 1-ounce bullion rounds was the first silver I ever purchased. So, just I figured I'd show it just because that's what I'm talking about anyway. And anyway, let's just jump right into this. So what I'm basically going to be doing is going over every type of bullion. Yeah, no, not every type of bullion. Every type of silver that you can buy. Some will be bullion, but others not. And whether or not I think that they're good for beginners. So let's jump into this now. So I'll start out with generic bullion since we're on the topic of it. And honestly, I don't think I would really recommend this to anyone, experienced or not, just because of the fact that you usually have to pay a couple of dollars over spot, especially for these 1-ounce rounds right here. These are bars, not rounds. I do have a couple 1-ounce rounds, but these bars right here, you have to pay a lot over spot for several dollars, and that's where you're really going to start to lose money on your silver, because for one, you have to make sure that you can get that back, and in a crisis situation, you're not going to get that premium back on these bars. But for two, the premium you're paying is basically just for some silver that has a nice little design on it. It's really nothing special, because for every one of these bars that's around, there's a million more being sold and being sold, or just in private collections or whatever it may be. And therefore, it's generic bullion. It's exactly what it sounds like, bullion that they mass produced, and so that premium is really not worth paying. And like I was saying, in a crisis situation, you lose it, but especially if you're trying to jump into just as a casual investor, you're going to lose money on the silver anyway and be able to purchase less in the future than you should be able to. So, definitely would not recommend this. Now, staying on the topic of bullion, what about all our different series, The Lunar Series is a good example, or American Silver Eagle Series is one of the biggest, probably the biggest in the United States. And just that type of thing. Honestly, it could be a good point to start out with, if you can get a really good deal on one of the coins, but for the average person, I wouldn't recommend it, because in order to really make any money on those, you need to be able to buy, many from the series and buy a bunch every year, and it gets really expensive really quickly. And for it to really be valuable, you need to have the entire series, which would cost you thousands of dollars, even if you bought them individually. So for a new investor, I think that can be a little intimidating, all these different coins out there, and the fact that there's a risk of some being fake, and if you're new, you might not be able to distinguish the fake from the real, unless you already have done a lot of research before, but I'm assuming that this is assuming you don't have any real experience with silver investing ever, so definitely something that you want to put a lot of research into before you actually do buy any. And you can also easily get ripped off because of the price. Some of them can be pretty high, and you might not, you might just think that's just because it's in great condition where the price should be lower. So I wouldn't really recommend those to new investors just because of that factor. Now, next thing I'm going to be talking about here is junk constitutional silver, and that I would recommend because it's very, very simple to invest in. But all you really need to know to invest in this constitutional silver, junk constitutional silver at least, and be able to get a good deal is the value of whatever coins you're buying. You just need to know the melt value of them. So obviously, if you're going to be buying coins, unless it's a weighted lot, it should tell you exactly what coins you're buying, how many, and then you can enter the weight through a good app like PCGS Coinflation, or if you're on a computer, you can go to their website. And no, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I'm just saying what I use personally. It's a great tool for beginners also, but they will tell you, the exact value of your coins, the melt value of your silver coins, or the silver coins that you want to buy, and you can tell whether or not it's a good price. You can also try to get people down, but definitely don't fall into the trap. Here's just a word of advice: don't fall into the trap of 1 ounce. It'll be like a standard ounce, all 90% silver, and it's like $20 or something ridiculous like that. Sometimes even like $25 for a standard ounce of 90% silver. It's like you really have to be like a pretty big noob it comes to silver to really fall into one of those traps, I think, but hundreds do. I see some of these lots will have thousands sold. I'm like, I don't understand why everyone's buying, junk silver for this much. They'll try to say, it's nice condition, but there's no good varieties or anything like that in there. There's nothing good. So all of it's pretty much worth, maybe a little bit over melt, but definitely not what they're expecting, 2x melt or 20, 20, sometimes 25x face. I'm like, no thanks. Like, definitely don't fall into those traps. But other than that, as long as you know the price of what you're buying, whether it be through weight or through the actual coins themselves, you can usually get a good deal because it's very simple. There's nothing too technical about it. Now, the next thing here is staying on the topic of constitutional. What about constitutional through numismatically valuable coins? This is definitely probably the biggest, scam for investors to fall into with these types of coins. They're the biggest scams that run in the silver investing communities, either through fake bars or fake numismatic coins. So I'm just going to say right now, I definitely would not recommend a new investor get into numismatically valuable coins. And that's for one very, very simple reason. You don't have enough experience yet to really understand not only the value of these coins and whether or not you're overpaying, because you can always look it up. A raw coin, you won't necessarily know the grade on, especially if you're new, because you wouldn't be able to grade it just by eye because you haven't had enough experience yet. And so you're going to be getting a rough estimate of the value, and really it could be 2 grades below where you're estimating it at, and then all of a sudden you overpaid a lot for the coin. And you don't know all the fine details, exactly how these coins look enough yet to really be able to tell if one's fake or not. Now you can compare it to a photo, sure, but a photo online of a coin can be very different from the one you'd actually receive. And, you wouldn't be able to tell. And now, there's nothing you can do, obviously, if they have a photo of a different coin, than the one you're actually buying. That's why I'm going to recommend here, just a little word of advice, only really buy either from reputable sources, or if you do buy from an unreputable source, make sure they at least have some positive feedback, and don't buy anything too expensive from them, because you could get ripped off. And I know that's where, some of the good deals can come in, too. So, I guess good deals do come at a risk sometimes, especially when there's low-quality photos. Although, don't always be turned away from that, because low-quality photos can mean that other people aren't willing to take a risk, and if you do, you can make money or lose money. It's that type of situation. But regardless, numismatically valuable coins are very, very technical, and for a new investor, unless you've put a lot of research in, I definitely would recommend, staying away from those until you've had at least 6 months of experience actually investing in silver. Now, the next form of silver I'm going to be getting into is jewelry, usually just like scrap jewelry silver, scrap chains or rings or whatever, and these I think can be a great way for new investors to get into silver. Now, obviously, don't go up to the jewelry store and decide, buy some silver, because you're going to be paying like 20x melt probably. But you can go into maybe a yard sale and, try to buy some, see if they have any jewelry there. Maybe look through all their costume jewelry they have for sale. But oh yeah, just a couple dollars for, all this jewelry you can have. And you look through it, and maybe you see some 925 stamps on the different chains, and then you realize, you could be paying a couple dollars and get, $30 worth of silver, and you can make a lot of money. And of course, there's going to be some fake silver jewelry out there, although usually you don't have to worry about it with gold more than silver. Now, someone could spray paint it silver and stamp it 925. Sure, they could. But that's why you should always bring around a magnet with you, so you can test the silver better, because silver should not be magnetic. So if it sticks, then it's fake. And better yet, you can get a magnet slide and see how the silver slides down, because even if it isn't going to stick because they have a heavy silver plate on it, if it slides down with a little bit of hesitation, you can still tell it's fake. And don't buy anything that's too sketchy, and either, don't be buying stuff in alleyways, I guess, is a good word of advice. But no, in all seriousness, there could be some fake silver jewelry out there, but usually it's going to be higher end things that are getting fake. Fake diamonds, fake gold, stuff like that. It's because silver is not quite valuable enough for it to be really worth faking unless you're doing it on a large enough scale to actually make some profit, because a $10 chain's not really worth it after the initial cost. The only thing I can think where it'd be worth it is maybe if you're making like 100-ounce bars or something, and of some other metal, and then spray painting it silver. The only time I can really think they'd be worth doing. But don't take this video as basically me saying that nobody ever fakes silver, because that's not true either. But yeah, silver jewelry, I think overall, like scrap jewelry, can be a good way for investors to get into it, because it's just like constitutional. There's nothing too technical, nothing really to really watch out for, and I'm talking about scrap jewelry. I'm not talking about high-end jewelry, because that's a whole different game that isn't even really silver investing anymore. That just goes into collectibles and that type of thing. But anyway, hope you guys did enjoy the video. That's it for this one. Peace, love, and much respect.